JP Morgan is terrified of actually telling you the truth. But if you're reading between the lines, what you see is the earnings are going to fall off a cliff. The JP Morgan analyst is saying, wow, AB InBev, that's the name of the company, because don't forget, it was a Brazilian company that came out and bought this Anheuser-Busch brand, which was, obviously a very storied brand here in the United States. And it became the multinational company that you now know it to be. Anyway, a guy named Jared Dingus over at JP Morgan, he said he expects earnings before interest and tax in the U.S. to slide 26% this year. That would be on a 12% drop in volume overall, a 10% decline in sales. And I would think so. I would think, by the way, a 26% decline in sales over there at Anheuser-Busch would actually translate into some problems for the stock price, right? Let's just be honest. And if these analysts on Wall Street were honest, instead of trying to curry favor, which is exactly what they do with management so that they can get the inside scoop and then publish these little tidbits, if the analysts were fully being honest, I don't think he'd recommend that you go out and buy the stock just yet. Not if earnings are falling off a cliff, which is what he just told us. Anyway, $58.65 a share. That is where Anheuser-Busch is right now, down 0.3% again today. Just to keep this in mind, I mean, the stock has lost it's like $10 a share, right? From pre-Dylan Mulvaney. And this company in particular has just done absolutely everything positively wrong, right? They were too quiet in the beginning. They didn't say a word for 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden, they get rid of the marketing executives. You remember that woman? I can't ever say her name, but the one who actually told us, oh, well, they're just, a bunch of frat guys and I need to change the brand. I need to mix it up. Well, she mixed it up all right. She and her boss were put on leave. Now, I firmly believe the CEO increasingly now is looking as though his job is in danger. Because one, he waited 2 weeks to address this crisis. Then he let those two people go out on leave. And then he sat down and did this interview in the Financial Times where he said, oh, it's just misinformation. I mean, talking about adding insult to injury. How often have we heard, by the way? We've heard it, right? The whole misinformation thing, which actually turns out to be true. So talking about a bad choice of words to use for your consumers that drink your Bud Light. Well, Bud Light was like a huge seller. It was like their number one. Plus then they had Miller Lite's in its own trouble. We'll get to that. Then they had Mick Ultra. And then they had, what's the other one, guys? I'm going to get to all your comments. Hey, great to see you all, guys. What's the third big beer? Budweiser, right? Budweiser, of course. That's their biggie. And all of this stuff came under fire. All of these sales, like right across the board, Bud Light sort of leading the way. But this company owns a lot of beers, and they are really facing a difficult time. $58.64 a share. Wow. Really amazing. And I'm going to go take a look at TAP right now. TAP would be its competitor, Molson Coors. Molson Coors, do not forget, is so proud of its little commercial there with who this woman. Actually, I'd never, ever heard of her. But, I'm not really into that alternative pop culture. So she's some kind of comedian. Ilana Glazer. So she went out and did this whole thing on how they're so sorry about all those swimsuits at Miller Lite.
Oh. So here's to women, because without us, there would be no beer.
All right. Well, the whole deal of that commercial, and you've probably seen it already. If not, go watch one of my other programs because we've showed it a lot. Anyway, the whole point of that commercial is to say, it's so bad. Like, we can't believe that women were wearing swimsuits to market beer back in 2003. Kind of like in commercials like, do we have it?
Mind if I join in?
All right. So that was one that definitely got a lot of attention. I do believe sold a lot of beer back in 2003 with Pamela Anderson, Sofia Vergara, and some others. So she's saying, we're so sorry about that. And so as a result, we're trying to make it up to women. And we're going to take all those bad commercials and all those bad posters and we're going to basically turn them into fertilizer. And she uses different words. And so everybody's like, okay, well, now we really know how you feel. We get it. Like, you're woke. You're super, super woke. And so ever since that campaign hit, what do you see? Molson Coors trading down. Shares of TAP are down 0.6% today at $62 a share. So there is some real concern here that this boycott might spread to other beer brands. Hey, maybe it's good. Maybe everybody goes out and like supports their local brewers for a change, right? Can you imagine that? Hey, buy local. It's important. It's important. Anyway, this company is really challenged. And I just want to get back to the report for a minute here, because the JP Morgan analyst, while he doesn't actually say what he really thinks, you can read between the lines. And by the way, that's what you have to do with some of these Wall Street analysts, because as I explained, they have their biases and they're trying to be very close to management. And there's a very incestuous relationship there. So the analysts are not really liked if they were to come out and say, hey, the CEO has to go. Well, then the CEO is not going to give this analyst any kind of tidbits about the company. So they're trying to preserve the relationship. They have to be very careful. There was only one analyst that came out. It was like a month after the whole ordeal went down. It was the foreign analyst, foreign bank, not necessarily foreign analyst, but foreign bank, HSBC, that came out and rated shares of Bud a hold. Wow, the guy looks like a genius. If you were listening to this show, what did I tell you? The stock was going to have a tough time. I'm not giving stock advice, but I'm just being as blunt as I can be. I mean, that was like one you should be able to see a mile away, right? The stock is going to have a hard time because sales are going down and the boycott is not letting up. It's just not. So this one says, okay, sales are down 26%. That's what he is predicting for the year. And there's so many, there's so many options within the beer space. It's not like Nike, which by the way, should actually see some pushback, but has not. And part of the reason may be, one, its demographic is slightly different. And two, it's harder to change shoes. Like, it's pretty easy to trade beers. So the first thing you saw initially was everybody traded into Miller Lite or to Coors Light, both owned by parent company Molson Coors. And well, that didn't work out so well for Molson Coors, because it turns out they had made that other little commercial like 3 weeks prior. And so once that came out and I shared it with you guys, what do you know? Shares of Molson Coors under ticker symbol TAP, they traded down. You cannot give this stuff away, certainly on the Bud Light front. And now this analyst over at JP Morgan is predicting that, for the foreseeable future, nobody wants to drink Bud Light. And when we say nobody, we mean like nobody. My words, not his. Nobody, because miraculously, this company has managed to, off everyone. So not just the consumers that traditionally drank it, but the entire LGBTQ plus community as well. That's like, wait a second, why aren't you standing up for us? They had their CEI rating downgraded the other day by the Human Rights Watch that said, okay, well, you're not being nice enough to the LGBTQ population, therefore we have to remove your 100% rating.